Today on This Week in Startups, we're going to talk about connected televisions. Yes, TV is changing. TVs have internet connections, and we're going to go through every device and every platform on this episode of This Week in Startups.
That's what it's all about, man. They said money is the root of all evil. What? Funny how it feeds my people. Yeah. We ain't gonna live like equals until we get the money, spend the money, and defeat you. Yeah. Money is the root of all evil. What? Funny how it feeds my people. Yeah. We ain't gonna live like equals until we get the money, spend the money, and defeat you.
Yes, hello everybody, hello everybody. As you know, this is This Week in Startups, and on the show we typically have startup companies or we do the news. That's our two formats, if you will. An interview with a founder, we hear about their company, or sometimes we do the news on Fridays at 1 o'clock. However, we're going to try a different style of show today. Today, we're going to do a topic-based show. And our producers, if you go to TWiST.co, you can see how to become a producer, and the producer program is doing phenomenal. There's over 100 people who are part of it, and they're on an email list and a wiki, and having a great time. And I think they're going to start using Yammer. Anyway, the producers wanted to do a show about a topic, just like we did that Bitcoin episode a little whiles back. That's my southern accent. Anyway, and now we're going to do connected TVs, which are TVs which is connected to the internet. And what this is involving was a lot of research by a team of 100 producers and Carolyn, etc. And we're going to go over Google TV, Samsung's, Vizio, Boxee, Roku, everything. And I actually bought all the products. I was like, hey, let's just buy all this stuff and let's learn it, because I need to learn about this stuff too. And that's the whole reason we do the show This Week in Startups, is so that a dumbass like me can figure out what the heck's going on out there. This show is a front. It's a front for me to get educated. And that's what you do too by watching the show. You're getting educated. So join the producers program, TWiST.co. Go ahead and join and be part of the fun. On the program today, Ashwin and Navin is with us. He's the CEO of Flingo. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And now Flingo is?
Flingo is a software product we actually implement in all these smart TVs.
Right, and so we met recently, and I said, hey, this guy's really brilliant. He understands all the platforms, and he is going to educate me, and you've done so already previous to the program, and we're going to get a little more educated today. Steve Correa is here.
Yay.
Steve works at Mahalo.
I do.
And you do technology here.
I do.
And one of the things that you do is when I say, I need to get this thing and set it up so I can play with it.
That would be me.
That's you.
Yep.
And then you have to race, and he has to set this stuff up, and then I go look at it for 15 seconds, and I go, my God, this thing is terrible, and I walk away. Or sometimes I look at it, and I play with it for 3 hours. Now, you've done a lot of work for about a week or two setting up. I'm going to do a panning shot now. All of these different systems, and you can see we have, there's the Apple TV, and then there's the Logitech Google TV, the Roku, the Boxee, the Vizio TV, and finally the Samsung Smart Hub. Did we do a pan? Was that a successful pan? No. No successful pan? Let's try one more time. Okay, so now we're going to do a pan. Here's the camera. Ah, look at this. We're moving the camera. Hey, look at that. GoToMeeting and then free Aaron. Everybody knows Aaron is being prosecuted for 35 years. It's just crazy. It's a whole nother story. And anyway, you can see all the devices. You're supposed to be able to pan and see the devices down here. There you go. And there's the devices on the shelf. And then coming over here in the studio, you can see behind me some more devices over here. And then there's more devices, and then TVs, et cetera. So we're going to go through every single, now you can switch back to me, thank you. Now we're going to go through each of these products in detail and explain to you how they work and how your company or your future startup can leverage these platforms, because it's brand new, and it's all single millions of users or less on these platforms. So this is really emerging stuff. And one thing that you're going to also want to learn about is Carbonite. Carbonite is the backup system that I use, that Tyler uses, and that you should use. Carbonite is just easy and simple and affordable. It backs up everything on your machine. And if you've got a small business, this is where you really want to use it. You got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people. Get Carbonite for business for as low as $229 a year, and everything's backed up. You don't have to worry about it, okay? You want to have control over all those documents and photos and PowerPoints. Back all that stuff up with Carbonite. And it's great to have Carbonite as a sponsor of the program, supporting independent media like this, which is very expensive to produce. I can tell you that this show's been in production for 2 weeks, and we couldn't do it without the support of amazing products like Carbonite. Please, for the love of God, use Carbonite so that you do not lose all these important files you have. And also, it is your Geary, it is your humble honor to sponsor, to support the sponsors. You should say thank you, oh my God, thank you so much at Carbonite. Do it on your Twitter, do it on your Google+, do it on your blog, do it on your Tumblr, do it on your Facebook if you still have a Facebook account, but I don't think many people do have Facebook accounts now because Google+ is so awesome. Anyway, there you have it, Carbonite, I love you, Carbonite. Okay, so I have a little PowerPoint deck here that we're gonna go through. This is like, part of the production of doing a themed episode. I'm gonna hit play here on my laptop if I can find it. Okay, there we go, I got a keynote. All right, so, whoops, let me get back to the first slide here. Okay, state of play, connected devices and web-enabled televisions. What are connected devices and web TVs? Steve, what are the two classes of devices that we have right now?
Well, basically we have some set-top boxes, which those are the Boxee box, the Google TV, and those sorts of things. And then there are also the actual TVs themselves with technology built into them.
Yeah, that's the second slide we have here. Hey guys, when he's talking, it should be picture in a picture. The slide should be the main part of the screen, and then he should be the picture. That's the idea behind having the beautiful TriCaster 850 Extreme, is that we can do picture in a picture. Picture in a picture. And now switch the pictures. Wow, who's operating the TriCaster today? Oh, most, okay. And there he goes. He's zooming in on Steve. Beautiful. So there you go. That's not beautiful?
Looks good.
It looks good, huh? Okay, so Ashwin, what is the difference between these two classes, and which one do you think is going to emerge as the winner? Internet-enabled TVs, like the Samsung right behind you, or buying a device like the Google from Logitech or the Boxee or the Roku? What are consumers going to flock to? Which one's going to win?
Well, most people believe that the set-top box, the standalone device, was kind of a stepping stone. This is what, if you have a TV, you're not really going to be motivated to go buy a new one just to have new fancy capabilities.
Right.
They're expensive purchases, so it's much cheaper to go buy, for example, a Roku for $100 or a Boxee for a couple $100. And I think there's one other category of device I think that's worth mentioning, which is the Blu-ray player.
Yes.
Which also has apps now, and that's kind of an intermediary between those two.
So you buy
devices.
a Samsung Blu-ray player, and it has, the one I have has Netflix on it.
You bet. That's right.
But are you saying some of them are going to have the Smart Hub technology from Samsung?
That's right. Yeah, Samsung, LG have basically consolidated on one platform that runs apps on both the TVs and the Blu-ray.
And Samsung and LG are sharing the same platform.
They're actually proprietary to each, so they
have
have their
proprietary.
own.
It's not the same, but they each
Google,
have their own platform.
It's not Yahoo. It's their own thing.
Got it.
And the long-term view is that the TV is ultimately going to be the place where you get everything.
Right.
It's going to be all built in. But it took some time for basically the price of that to make sense for consumers.
Now, in these TVs is a processor, correct?
Right.
What kind of processor are they putting into the Samsung behind us? And Steven, if you know this information, you can tell us as well. What's the power of this processor? Is it the equivalent of a mobile phone processor? What is it?
It's roughly. I mean, the specs vary from unit to unit. The architectures vary from unit to unit. I know, for example, the Boxee actually has an Intel Atom processor in it. So it's basically a one of those, a netbook, but desktop, running a very small version of Linux. That's what that one is. And for each one of them, they're all sort of their own thing.
So how much does that add to the cost of the television? Is it like $100 extra to put that processor in for these folks?
Well, it used to be. In fact, if you took two TVs a couple of years ago, a Sony with internet features and one without, you'd pay $400 more.
$400
in the first generation of connected TVs for a TV that had this. And the beauty is that we've been able to consolidate all the capabilities into one chip in the newest generation of product. And so really the premium is no longer there. You could buy, for example, a Vizio or a Sanyo internet connected TV for under $600.
Wow.
And you pay the same price whether it has connectivity or not.
And of course, we've been already connecting, next slide in the deck here on my computer, we've been connecting, as you can see, through the Wii, Microsoft Xbox, and PlayStation. Video game folks have been hitting Netflix already through their Microsoft Xbox, mainly is what I hear from people. How big of a trend is this, and is this the future of all this, or is this just a niche part of the audience, in your mind?
Well, I think the game consoles have been kind of the leading category of devices. It certainly appeals to a certain type of people. Just recently,
tech savvy?
Yeah, absolutely. Male, heavily male and tech savvy. And I think that will have a role now and in foreseeable future.
Now, when you log into an Xbox or a Nintendo Wii or a PlayStation, it gives you the option to use Netflix.
Right.
and that's a separate experience. That's a Netflix experience.
That's right.
But Netflix has to build an application for each of those platforms. Is that correct?
It varies. So it turns out that Xbox and Sony are closed platforms. There's no app store in each of these game consoles yet.
Right.
And the apps and the services that you see built into those consoles are actually built by the manufacturer.
Got it.
It's not an open ecosystem, and that could change, and it should change.
Now, do you see a day coming where the Xbox or the PlayStation has different branding, that this is a set-top box that happens to play Xbox games, as opposed to this is an Xbox that happens to have interactive television, internet television features?
Yeah, I think Microsoft has already started to talk about this. At E3 this year, for example, they actually talked about the fact that 40% of people's time with Xbox is no longer gaming, it's other stuff.
Right.
And so that's an indication that maybe they aren't going to alienate their core, but they're going to at least start to talk about the other things that you can do.
In your mind, should they just release another product called Microsoft Television or Web TV, and then just say this Web TV, and then put in the small print, it also plays Xbox games?
I think Microsoft does have other products. They have something called Media Room, which is kind of a TV software package. But
is that Windows Media Center?
It's actually something that they designed for set-top boxes for AT&T and for other carriers and stuff like that.
Okay.
Xbox is such a runaway success. I think stay true to the core. Build on that platform. It's such an amazing opportunity for Microsoft.
Okay, so some current statistics here. I see 2010, pretty banner year for connected devices. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think, truthfully, last year was the year that a lot of the software got baked down into one chip. So you won't see a premium on the TV that has connectivity.
So that's the economic issue. That was solved in 2011.
2011 is when we're going to see scale. We're basically, now the manufacturers, it's cheaper for them to make everything with internet connectivity, everything with a Wi-Fi antenna. And that wasn't true in previous years. So from here on, I think this is the defining year for this category.
So this year at Christmas, which is the key time to buy televisions, I think.
That's right. Christmas and Super Bowl.
Christmas and Super Bowl.
Those are the big TV buying.
And the Super Bowl's the Stupid Bowl's in January.
Yeah,
something like
January,
that.
February, something like that.
So you may have like two bumps, one after the holidays and one before.
Right.
Are you able to buy, or would a consumer be able to buy a non-internet enabled TV this Christmas?
It's not quite there yet, but what I've heard about the buyers at Walmart and Best Buy is that they're putting a lot of pressure on the manufacturers to basically say, we can't sell TVs unless they have Netflix built in, unless they come with Wi-Fi. And by the way, Walmart also owns Vudu, which is a movie rental service.
Right.
So they'd like manufacturers to put Vudu in all their TVs. And Best Buy owns Cinema Now, which is another rental service.
Right.
Best Buy wants people to install that service in the TV. So that's
Is that a requirement of selling in their stores to have Vudu on the platform?
I think it helps. It's not a requirement, but either
it might be an antitrust actually to be a requirement, but they're putting pressure on them.
I think it's something that it curries favor with the retailers.
Maybe it puts your TVs up front?
Yeah, there might be a little quid pro quo or something like that.
So this is new for Walmarts of the world. They get to actually participate.
That's right.
In the television economics after selling the TV.
That's right, and the reason they did this is there was a lot of pressure for retailers to carry the iPod, if you remember a few years ago. This was a huge traffic driver. Brought a lot of footfalls into the store, but what happened when Walmart, Best Buy started selling iPods is they stopped selling CDs.
Right,
because
they
people just
basically cannibalized themselves.
They killed it. They killed the CD aisle.
They killed that department.
Right, so they weren't going to make that mistake again. They want to sell TVs that
without losing
people.
DVDs.
Exactly. Now you just rent them through your TV. You stream them, and that keeps them in the revenue for the content.
The estimate: 33 million broadband-enabled TVs will be in U.S. households by 2013. I think there's 100 million households or something like that in the United States. 33% penetration. Is that correct?
That sounds about right. And and that's when every major media buyer and the rating services like Nielsen start to take this stuff seriously. It took TiVo and DVR penetration to get about 30% before time-shifted viewing was considered seriously.
Yeah. Let's zoom in a little bit on this slide here. This is the future consumer landscape. I think the guys on the TriCaster side, can you guys zoom in on that and just frame the chart so we can actually see the text a little bit? I don't know if you guys can zoom or not, but if you can zoom in on my computer, that would be great. If you can't, that's okay. Here we see the blue line is internet-connected TVs. In 2010, growing all the way up to over 100 million in 2015. Internet-enabled Blu-ray players growing very quickly as well. Internet gaming, consoles flat, internet digital video players flat, essentially. This is basically means in the next 3 years, every home will have this.
Right.
Is that your estimate?
Yeah, I think it's basically 35 million TVs bought every year in the U.S. if the manufacturers are saying, hey, you have to put connected TVs on store shelves, you really won't have a choice. And it really only takes 3 years for you to have 100 million new TVs in America, and that means they're probably all going to be internet connected.
Got it. So let's look at the viewing habits here. They're obviously changing. Paid television has just over 100 million subscribers in the U.S., declining actually. That's paid television as in your cable or DirecTV. But internet viewing rising steadily. Hulu Plus and Netflix both increasing. Hulu Plus almost 1 million paid subscribers, pretty miraculous considering it's an under a year-old product. And Netflix, of course, 23 million subscribers. Content viewing moving online. Only 50% of those people under 35 reporting they watch TV on a television set. And one report found that 30% of Netflix subscribers aged 18 to 24 use that service. Found that 30% use the service instead of cable.
Me.
And that's you.
That's me.
And why do you choose not to have cable, Steven?
It's too freaking expensive.
How much is cable, and how much would it cost you to get?
I mean, my roommates have cable and they pay for
They
the
pay
bill.
for it.
And
50
they
bucks,
have
75
some
bucks?
sort of, yeah, it's like 60, 70 bucks.
And you just think it's not worth it for you.
No, absolutely not.
But you do pay 10 bucks a month for Netflix or something to that effect?
Yeah.
Do you pay for Hulu Plus?
$8. I do not pay for Hulu Plus.
But at 10 bucks a month, you would consider it, I'm guessing?
Yes, I would definitely consider it. It's just 30 Rock, and they have 30 Rock on Netflix. That's basically
right. So you can find enough on Netflix to satisfy your consumption.
Exactly. And I'm not the type of person that spends more than 2 hours a day max, in front of the TV.
And the
so
average,
I don't watch
Ashwin, is 4 hours a day for Americans?
Actually, Nielsen's saying we're over 5 hours a day for the average
5 hours a day?
American households,
Well, we're only awake 18 hours a day.
It's amazing. It's the babysitter,
16,
it's the news,
it's 1/3 of people's day.
Yeah.
All right, so I guess we're going to go through these by sales, and we're going to look at each product and discuss them. And I think we're starting, is this the point where we go over to the actual machines and discuss them?
We can, absolutely.
Yeah, I think that this is the time that we do that.
Sure.
So we're about 16 minutes in, and let's take a look here at the Apple TV and talk about the Apple platform. Of course, I famously reported 3 or 4 years ago that Apple was working on television sets because I got some inside information from somebody, let's just say, in and around the company, and leave it at that. Of course, and now it turns out that I'm probably going to wind up looking pretty brilliant for just repeating something that somebody else said to me and having seen it pick it up. Ashwin, is Apple going to make TVs?
There's definitely been grumblings about this. I mean, it makes sense. They've got.
Do you have any inside information?
No.
You don't have any inside information?
No.
What's your guess? Do you think it would make sense for them to do so?
I think they've got all the parts. They've got a great platform. They've got the relationships with the manufacturers, and the manufacturers are probably sniffing around what they can do for Apple. I think Apple's just trying to make sure the product is great, like everything else that they do.
What would the introduction of an Apple TV do to this market?
Well, it's certainly, Google TV, for the same reason, brought a lot of attention to what this means for the traditional media industry. And one thing that Apple will likely do very well is make sure that they have strong media relationships and that the business model makes sense for everybody.
Yeah.
And it's going to look great, and the manufacturers are going to be happy. I think for the manufacturers, it's scary to have Apple in the business because Apple's done well. They've taken commodity industries like MP3 players and redefined them with a category-leading product.
People would pay 25%,
up.
35% more for an Apple TV.
Right. And
what would that do to Apple's stranglehold on the ecosystem of media? Watching television shows, music, etc.
Well, clearly, through Apple TV, this is about using iTunes as the service that you use to get the content, and then extending its usefulness to people throughout your house. This is not likely to be a cheap product. This is going to be a product that's going to be at the high end of the market. And
$3,000?
Truthfully, I think that's bad news for the more expensive TVs. There's always going to be a market for cheap TVs.
You would see the Apple TV come out what price and compete against what other manufacturers, if you had to guess?
I think it comes out, 40-inch plus, 40 to 60-inch in that range, and I think it comes in at the very high end of the market, and it's really competitive with companies like Sony, Sharp, Samsung.
$4,000?
Oh,
4,000?
I think it would be less than that.
Way less.
Significantly less.
2,000.
Probably even less.
1,500.
I think it's the $1,000 to $1,500 mark. That's kind of where you would have to be.
The 40-inch range.
I don't know what Apple's going to do, but I think that's where you have to be.
Got it.
Otherwise, you're kind of irrelevant to the market.
I thought they would just take the highest high end of the market for the first year, 50-inch and above, and make it $3,000 and just have a $1,000 margin on the product.
Yeah. I
and
think
just
it's tough to
create
move.
massive demand.
Basically, you'd be sitting on the store shelf next to products that are half the price, and I think that's good products too, like the one behind me. It's a really nice product. And
how much does that one cost? That new Samsung Smart Hub.
What size is this?
It's in our slides. It's 46-inch.
Yeah.
I think it was somewhere around $1,200 or $1,300.
That's it.
Yeah, TVs are getting
Is
cheaper.
that the one that we had outside too? Yeah.
It was. Yeah.
Only $1,200 or $1,300 because I bought the Samsung LED 2 years ago. It was $3,500. LEDs are now the same for just $1,200.
Yeah.
It goes more. What does it do? Is it half every 2 years? The price? Is that what we're seeing?
Well, I think that it's really about manufacturing scale. I mean, when flat screens first came out, everyone was trying to get rid of their factories to make CRT TVs, and literally just the cost structure was so high. And everyone was vertically integrated, meaning you've got a factory, you've got software developers, you've got everything all in one company, and there was no real Dell of the business. And then along comes Vizio,
right?
You know, and basically says, we're going to make everything in Asia. We're just going to market it and provide customer service in the U.S. The Dell model for PCs, they brought to TVs.
Sure.
And they created massive downward pressure in the whole market for pricing over the last 7
Is
years.
Vizio a respected brand, or is it considered like the garbage low-end brand?
It used to be the low-end brand.
Right. My perception of it was Vizio was like the cheap stuff.
Yeah, when Vizio came out, it was
Or is it value?
super cheap, and it was, I believe it was only sold at Walmart for a small period. And so it was super low end, and nowadays, I mean, we have the set here that's scalable up to like a 40-inch or a 50-inch or something like that. They're super reliable.
Super
and
reliable
cheap.
and cheap.
Yeah.
So it's a value brand, that we'd say.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about the Apple TV here for a second.
Sure.
Can we pull up the Apple TV? And
of
I
course.
think you have to switch over. Oh, there you go. So we are actually in.
We are in an Apple TV right now.
And beautiful Apple interface. We've sold about, how many of these units have been sold? Is it 2 million?
2 million is what.
And so this is half of the device market, Ashwin, about. But it's a proprietary platform, obviously.
Sure.
And what are the key features of it?
Pretty standard feature set in terms of streaming. Those are your options. They're pretty sparing. Netflix, you know, a staple. MLB.
So they'll let you log into your
YouTube, all
Netflix
that
through
stuff.
Apple TV.
They will.
But you can also rent movies through Apple.
You can, and that's really what they're trying to push here, if you will, over here on.
Now, are you controlling that through your iPad?
I am, yes.
Oh, okay. So I didn't actually even know you could do that. Can we show his iPad for a second there? So now you have your iTunes on there?
This is actually the Apple remote. It's developed by Apple. It's their official remote app, and you just control it using gestures.
So let me see that for a second.
Yeah, go for it.
So you're just a black pad, as you can see, and I'm just swiping to move around. And wow, that really has a great feel to it. I didn't know that they had done this. So, and then I just click on movies, and then here are the top movies, and I can then pick one, and Limitless, which had great potential, was terrible. My choice is $4.99 to rent in HD, and I get it for whatever it is, 48 hours or something to that effect.
Yeah, yeah. When you rent a movie, you can watch it any.
But I don't hear. Here, I'll give that back to you.
Sure.
I don't hear many people renting movies from Apple.
Yeah, that's
seems
because a
pretty
lot of
expensive.
your friends have Netflix, probably.
Yeah, and $5 for a movie feels kind of expensive.
Yeah, this is true.
But truthfully, there's not a lot. I mean, the rental market through streaming services isn't that big. I mean, who do you think actually wins in this business? And there's no one that's saying you could say is dominating streaming rentals. Right.
And because people don't want to rent because Netflix has trained them and Blockbuster has trained them that renting on a one-off basis is a ripoff, essentially.
I mean,
is that people's perception?
I don't think you get the same value, clearly, like relative to having a physical thing in your hand, or just getting a monthly subscription.
Right, for $8 or $9 to Netflix, versus $5 from a one-off, and they have all these top shows that you can get on Hulu.
This is
now,
true.
Do they support Hulu on Apple TV?
They do not.
They do not.
No. What you see is what you get right here.
So you can get your YouTube, you can get your Flickr, you can get some radio, you can pull stuff from your computer, which is, I guess, for people very powerful.
Not at all, actually.
Oh, no.
The computer section is super easy to set up. iTunes has a feature called home sharing. You just enable that with your Apple ID, and as long as your computer is on the same network, you can use it to
pull up the library.
your iTunes library, some pictures.
So if you've downloaded a bunch of TV shows off of BitTorrent, not saying you would, Steve, you can pull those up here, or if you subscribe to a podcast, you can pull them up.
Exactly.
Awesome. Yeah. And that looks just beautiful.
Wonderful still.
Yeah, great. It looked terrible there. Okay, let's go. So the Apple TV at And it's really cheap, the Apple TV, right? What is it now, 99 bucks?
Apple TV is a whopping $99. Yep.
Right. Now, did Apple make this as a proof of concept experiment? I think I remember Steve saying that at some point.
It was their toy, I think is
Was
what
it
he
toy was the
referred
word
to.
he used?
Yeah.
And by toy, he means we're going to learn something about the users, have this out there as a warning to dissuade people from getting into the business before we get our TVs out. Would be my handicapping of it. Let's talk about the Google TV.
Okay.
There was a lot of expectation of the Google TV, and has it been successful, Ashwin?
Unfortunately, not yet. We're all really excited about Google TV because it's really the first open ecosystem in the whole television industry. It's one where anyone can build a TV or Google TV optimized website and be on Google TV, or you can. In the next generation of this product, you'll be able to actually submit apps to the Android market that will be available on the TV, which is what Google announced at I/O last.
But now, for an Apple's ecosystem, the apps, your Angry Birds does not make it to your television set yet. They don't have apps for TV.
That's correct.
They went apps on your phone, apps on your iPad, apps to your desktop.
Right.
Logic would say apps to the TV is the next piece.
Right. It absolutely makes sense that they would do it. I think Apple's being really careful about the user experience because clearly a touchscreen app is going to be very difficult to use on the TV.
But how miraculous would it be if your kid could walk up to your big Apple television set and then pull the red bird and let it go?
Right.
I mean, playing Angry Birds and smudging the heck out of your TV set would be kind of fun.
Yeah.
Do you think Apple will release a touchscreen?
I don't
Does that
think
even
so.
exist, an LED touchscreen at that scale?
Well,
You would
this
use
is
your
a remote.
iPad as your remote. That
Yeah.
would be the way to do it. And you can do that now. People can export their HDMI to a television set, correct?
or over Airplay, but yeah, currently nothing's like it for games.
So define what Airplay is.
Airplay essentially allows you to play video stuff on an iPad, which I have the Google remote up here.
Yep.
But if I had a video here, I would push a button and I would say Airplay, and it would say where do you want to send it, and I'd say send over to my Apple TV. My Apple TV would start playing.
Can you send
I can
the
demo
Angry
it a little
Birds over
later.
there?
You cannot.
You cannot send the app over.
No, you can't send the
So
app.
if you're playing is Airplay going to come inside of apps at some point?
It might. We'll
Because that would
see.
be, but isn't there an external connector where you can connect your iPad out and then connect it to your television set
There
through
is,
HDMI?
yeah. And
So
you
if
can
you want to
use-
jimmy rig it, you could do that.
Yeah, and you can use certain apps like Keynote, for instance. You control the Keynote with the iPad, and then you actually see
So
the display up
Airplay
there.
is inside of certain apps.
Yes,
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 I got
inside
it.
of YouTube
Okay.
and
So
whatnot.
here we have the This Week in Startups, I'm sorry, This Week in Startups, This Week In website with a bunch of the different shows. We had somebody make a website for us. I can't remember who it is, I'm sorry. But if you wanted to watch This Week in Walking Dead, which will be starting up again in September, you could click on This Week in Walking Dead. Let's take a look at that one.
Okay.
And you're just using the Google TV for iPad app?
So, yeah, there's another iPad app, which, iOS app. This is actually a iPhone-only app right now.
Got it.
So I'm actually doing the magnification.
Got
so
it,
the
yeah, yeah.
picture looks a little janky,
wonky, yeah.
and it's a little clunky to get around in, but
This is the thing I
works. It does
hate
the
about
job.
these things is they never come with the navigation is never good, but they have a nice
That's
TV.
the other thing, though, is that the unit ships with this guy right here. If we can get a decent shot of that.
Yeah, zoom in on that. Nice, tight.
It is pretty cool. You got a trackpad over here. It's
So he's
supports
showing the trackpad. You want to show the trackpad on the video. Okay,
supports
there.
scrolling, two-finger
it.
scrolling,
There
and a
you
couple
go.
other gestures like that, which is
Got
pretty
it.
nice.
Okay.
As well as, yeah, I mean, just a full-fledged QWERTY keyboard, a little search button.
Is Ashwin, is the touchpad or the iPad, the sort of swiping, going to be the predominant input for these internet-enabled televisions?
I actually believe that the best TV experience is one where you're not searching, you're not typing. The TV is smart and aware of the things you care about, and boils those things up to the top.
Right.
So that
but when you
they're
do have
happy.
to type, I mean, if I want to look for the Knicks,
Yeah.
it's not going to come up on the top. I haven't set it yet. Do you think every TV will have a keyboard?
Well, I think we have enough keyboards. We have laptops. I think the stat is that 60% of TV watching has at least one other screen in the same room on that person's
So
lap.
multi-screen is the answer.
I believe that, and I believe if you're going to search on a device that you're comfortable searching on, which is a laptop or even my phone, for crying out loud.
Would be better.
Yeah, then
Yeah,
basically bring another
using
keyboard
the
into the world.
keyboard, using the remote control to try to hit the A is a terrible experience. I mean,
Yeah.
on DirecTV.
right.
Hey, when we get back, I want to ask you why Google TV has failed. And let's face it, it's been a failure in terms of market adoption. And then I want to go through Roku, Boxee, and then finally end with what I think is the most brilliant thing, which is the really poorly designed, yet for some reason compelling to me, Smart Hub on the TV, and why that's so compelling. But before we do that, I want to thank our next sponsor, break for sponsor, GoToMeeting. Now there's a great company. I was just using GoToMeeting the other day for a meeting. It worked flawlessly. And again, if this is the first time you're watching the show, we have a whitelist of the advertisers and the partners who will allow to sponsor the program, to provide for all these great resources that put together this amazing independent content that is free to you, the user. And GoToMeeting is on my short list of products I personally love and use every week. Every week I use it. And this, I think this should say GoToMeeting, not Carbonite. And are you controlling that? No, that's
not
the
that.
guys in the
No.
background. Okay. Anyway, I saw the video of the new video version of GoToMeeting, and I can't really talk too much about it, except to say it destroys Skype, hands down. The HD Faces product they have coming out is going to crush everything. It is an awesome, awesome experience. So get into GoToMeeting now. Don't wait. And they're going to be releasing this, I think, very soon. Of course, use the promo code START, and you'll get a 30-day free trial. It also works on iPad, and I've seen it work on iPad. It's flawless. So what a great product. And you want to be taken seriously. If you use the free products out there, it's going to be unstable, your meeting's going to start late, and it's going to be a little embarrassing for you. Use a really fine, refined, paid product like GoToMeeting that is stable and meant for business. You spend $99 getting on Southwest. You spend $200 getting on a flight each way. Spend a little bit of money on GoToMeeting, and you'll get a lot out of it. I do, and I love it. Thank you to GoToMeeting for sponsoring the program. Use the promo code START, and thank them on your Twitter account. They always appreciate seeing that. Okay, so here we go. Why has Google TV been a failure? I know, Ashwin, you got to be a little bit of a gentleman because you work with these companies, but let's face it, this has been hands down a failure. Why do people not want to buy Google TV? What's the holdup?
Well, Google is taking a long-term view on this, right? So they didn't compromise on software, they didn't compromise on hardware. They put really, sort of probably the fastest processor that we've seen in the TV market in these boxes, and they put a really featureful software package. A few things that, in my opinion, and I think the, sort of the reviews.
Can we see the top level of this too? By the way, I love the fact that any website can be designed for it, but let's see the top level here while you're talking.
Yeah, I think the.
So you're saying it's expensive.
The criticism is that the price was high.
What was the price?
It was what, $300 for the Logitech at the debut, and
Yes, I believe.
yeah,
Or
now
is
it's $229.
right.
It's a little bit less.
And the competitive box, like the Roku or the Apple, were at $100, right? So there was a.
So it's 3 times as much.
Right.
But it's faster.
It's got a lot in there, and the other sort of criticism was
Go to
that
the main menu, yeah.
was this keyboard issue, and do we want another keyboard in the living room?
And people don't want that.
I don't think they do. That's my personal opinion. That's our belief.
I do, because I want to type stuff in, but I guess it depends on what you're watching. So what are the highlights, Steven, of the platform in terms of when you turn it on? What's the average user going to say? Hey, this is my favorite part.
Well, honestly, there's a lot of features packed into this tiny little unit over here. I'm pretty sure it's powered by an Atom processor. So it's basically another little net top.
Yep.
Device, but the one key feature is that it has Google Chrome built in, and you can go to any website you want, and it is basically a fully functional web browser with Flash.
Got it. So if you were to go to YouTube, you could play Flash, or if you had a Flash game, you could play that.
Sure.
Whatever it is.
Yeah, anything you want. So that's one thing that's pretty neat about
people
it.
don't really want to surf the web, Ashwin, on their TVs. If they want to surf the web, they got better devices for that.
Surfing, correct, but how these applications get rendered, people don't care. As long as they're easy to use and valuable.
So here's YouTube Lean Back.
Right.
And I guess it knows that we came from this device.
We do.
And it's asking us, do we want to try that? So let's say, yes, we're going to try it. Hopefully we said that. And now YouTube Lean Back means what?
This is YouTube designed to be for the lazy viewer. Someone who's not going to be searching. Doesn't need a keyboard, just simple clicking around.
And see, this is where I think the future is. Type in like how to play Lady Gaga, how to play Poker Face on guitar. Now look at this. This is great for me. Poker Face on guitar. Okay, look at that. There's a Mahalo video number 2 with 4,000 views.
Sure.
This to me is why, if people want to know why we're producing 1,000 videos and I pivoted the company, is that I think that these devices, this is what people are going to do in the future, isn't it, Ashwin? They're going to go to their TV and type in how to do something and watch a video.
That could be, and I think, truthfully, I think
Could be.
when there's an
I'm
app.
betting the farm on it.
Well,
It better be.
I personally would love a Mahalo app.
Right.
Forget YouTube. I want a Mahalo app.
You think that that's the better thing?
I personally believe in apps. I think the browser introduces a lot of usability concerns.
Right. So you have an app on here, right? For TMZ that you built, or some other people you may have built it? You guys build apps.
We have an app publishing product, similar to like WordPress for blogs.
Ah, okay.
We allow companies to publish TV apps, and then we make it really easy for them to do that.
So what's an example of your app?
Well, so people that are using our publisher include TMZ, as you mentioned,
Right.
Warner Brothers, CBS.
I think we have that bookmarked on the top level, do we? Let's see if we can see that. There's TMZ by Flingo.
Yeah.
Okay. So now you built an app for them. This app is written in what?
This is a browser-based app.
A browser-based app.
So that's why you can see it in Google TV here.
Got
it looks even better when it's running as a standalone.
Now, could I
app.
pull this up on the web if I went to tmz.com/what?
No, you cannot. This is specifically for TV devices.
So what happens if you type in? If I typed in tmz.com on the browser in here, would it know that we're on a device and redirect you to this experience?
That's where we're going. I mean, this is what you just saw when you went to YouTube, is that it recommended that you try Lean Back.
Right.
We wanted every website in the world to basically have a TV version.
So now everybody's got to build 3 websites: a mobile website, a regular website, and a TV website.
You bet. And that's going to give people the best experience for what you're trying to get out there.
If you have video content, I mean, not everybody has to do this.
Right.
So
even if you had photos or other things, news, I think it'd be smart to start thinking about a TV optimized version of what you're trying to get out.
So here we go, TMZ. You can go scroll through this and go to popular, I guess, would be a good choice. And
this is it. Just use your arrow keys.
Yeah.
There you go.
There we go. And it's going to load the most popular things. I guess you're pulling that from an RSS feed or something. I don't know.
This is all popular in the TV.
And then pick the hottest DUI ever. And so you're basically going to their web platform, I guess, or to their database to get this information. You're hitting some API.
Yeah, that's right.
And your platform made this. Now, does your company actually write the code for them and everything, or do you work with their dev team?
No, this TV application was developed entirely by us. It's kind of like a turnkey application publisher.
Right.
Here's an ad that...
Perfect. That's great for them. They're making some
right?
money. And did you skip the ad?
I went back.
Oh, okay.
So
no problem.
One of the other things that's unfortunate about this keyboard is the back button is right next to those arrows. So it's
no problem.
You can accidentally hit that.
So what is it going to cost people to make a television app with your firm?
So we actually have a free version of the app creator. So it's like WordPress. We're very inspired by what happened in blogging, what Twitter has done with microblogging.
Yep.
The idea is make it really easy to publish. And we have a free version that basically says, if you want a TV app, we'll do it for free. Just use these tools, and the value exchanges that we can sell ads against the app, and we share the revenue with the publisher.
Got it.
We have a paid version of this product, which basically says if you want to sell your own ads, you can pay.
Now, has Google gotten anybody to put Google TV as the embedded platform in a television set, or are the television set manufacturers too smart to give that business up?
No, Sony was their first win.
Yep.
So Sony, which is a platform company,
Right.
has given their platform over, their desktop over to Google?
Yes. In fact,
That seems like a terrible move on their part.
I think there's still, the jury's still out on it was 1 or 2 products, I think, for Sony out of a family of 30 or 40 connected products.
Got it.
Jury still out as whether that was an experiment by Sony, but clearly Sony is transforming itself, and it's basically being more open to
collaborating.
outside ideas, outside contribution, which is, I think, a positive trend.
So maybe if they collaborate with them, they'll split revenue on stuff, and maybe they get to control their desktop, sort of like Android. Is that the Android approach you think they're going to take with Google TV?
I actually don't have any specific knowledge about the commercial relationship, but
is that how it works, Google TV? Do you think that they will look at Google TV like they look at Android, which is anybody can have this? You can use it for free, and you get to customize it, but we get something out of it, I guess.
Well, I was just in China a few weeks ago, and Android has really taken hold in the manufacturing ecosystem out there.
HTC.
Yeah, so Android as an
Samsung.
operating system is proliferating. That doesn't mean it has Google TV. Doesn't mean it has all the apps that Google wants people to have.
Well, you're saying is Google TV running on Android? Or?
It is, yeah. Google TV and Chrome run on Android.
Right.
And as a manufacturer, I can take the operating system.
You mean the Chromebook when you say runs on Android? Or the Chromebook's its own
the
operating
Chrome,
system?
the browser itself.
The
They have
browser.
a TV version of Chrome
Got it.
that runs on Android OS.
Got it.
And Android OS can be used by anyone. It's open source. And you don't necessarily have to take all the other stuff
Right.
that Google offers. You
Right.
can just run the OS, and that's happening.
Right.
And
And
again-
Google hopes by doing that they have the best operating system experience, they get the most feedback in their ecosystem, and people make the most apps.
Right.
I mean, the apps is what they're going for.
That's where the money is.
Yeah.
You know, putting a search box.
Now, what about
putting other
making
things.
money here? I mean, does the Google platform have any built-in pay-per-view or app transactions yet? I know that Android obviously has a store, but is there an equivalent in Google TV?
Not yet. That's what Google said they're going to release.
Ah,
in
so
their
they're going to
next
have
version.
some sort of thing there. Okay.
Right.
And I see all the standard stuff in here, Netflix,
Yeah.
Pandora, and I'm guessing Google is going to be a lot more opening to having Hulu and that kind of stuff, and Apple will be the more closed, patented group, right?
Yep.
That would be the handicapping of the situation?
That's definitely currently the status
Right.
quo. Yeah.
So it's easier for companies to buy into the ecosystem of Google, startup companies, etc. Okay, let's look at the Roku. This is the device that's been marketed heavily, and under $100. And the Rokus we have set up over here on this little tiny HP monitor. And you turn it on, and this is what you see.
Sure.
Correct?
Yep.
And so, what do we think of this device? What's the specs on it, and who's buying this? What do you think of it?
A pretty neat little gadget, some quirky little interface modifications and things of that nature. But overall, it's a pretty standard, inexpensive way to go about accessing web content on
Right.
a TV.
And I see it's got the standard Pandora, Netflix, Amazon Instant Video, Hulu,
Right.
Pandora, etc. Is this an app platform, Ashwin? Do you buy apps on this? Is this something your company would build apps for yet, or no?
We haven't published anything to Roku yet. They've recently reached a level of scale that makes sense for people to go build apps on this platform. Roku
Scale being what, 500,000?
I think they're over 1 million units now.
Wow, a
they're
million
just-
units, but how many people are using it every day?
Well, this
Every
Roku, 1 million units of Roku means that there's pretty close to 1 million people using it because there's no other utility for this box other than running apps.
But no, it's just,
And-
my perception of this box was this is the box you get if you just want to run Netflix or Hulu.
Well, the company was actually incubated in Netflix. I don't know if you know this. So
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, Netflix for some time was thinking about becoming a hardware play.
Ah.
And so they incubated this set-top box inside the company, and once they realized there was a bigger opportunity in being an app on everyone's platform, they spun this company out.
Ah.
And Roku is now independent and doing quite well.
It is doing quite well.
Yeah.
And how do they make their money? Off the hardware, or do they get a piece of the action when people access?
I think there's a little margin in the hardware, but I think this company is configured to make money in services. Basically getting a piece of the.
Do you think they
the
get any
platform.
money from Netflix or Amazon when they sell a movie through it or get a subscriber? Is that they're going to make money, or?
I think they're very interested in getting an economic split on anything that happens on this platform.
And what is the channel store that we're very slowly retrieving here?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure why
Yeah.
it's taking a sweet little
So
time
here
there.
are a bunch of channels.
So-
Now I'm starting to see more. Crackle, Chow.
Exactly. So
Crunchyroll.
these are all applications that you can, or I guess channels, as Roku calls them. That
Yeah.
you can
So
go
when you
ahead
hit
and
on that
install.
Crunchy up there, I've heard of Crunchyroll before. I'm not sure what that is. Two down,
Yeah,
three
yeah,
down.
sorry.
Crunchyroll is a company I'm actually on the board of.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's the largest
I'm just gonna add that
Asian
channel.
media
Right.
provider. So Japanese animation,
Right.
Korean dramas.
So
etc.
they've made an app here. So let's go to the or a channel. What is it actually doing here? Is this playing an app? Is this
So
like software?
I
or?
just installed it. Yep. So
Yep.
it just
It's
pulled
downloading
the app
some
down,
sort of
and
app.
then now we're launching it.
Got it.
So this is theirs.
And so this looks very basic.
It is
and
like a lot of.
What is it
things
going to
for
load when you
Roku.
click on drama? Is it going to? Huh. And so if you're into Korean dramas, you can go get one here.
You bet.
Yeah.
And they have a lot of them.
And if you click that, what is it going to play? Is it going to play a YouTube video? Or what is it going to play? Let's hit play. I'm curious. Or maybe it's just streaming some video from their site.
Yeah, this is video from Crunchyroll.com.
Got it. And so this site, Crunchyroll, that you're on the board of, they're licensing a bunch of this content from Asia and selling it to Americans,
Yep.
or putting advertising on it. And this would not be available on cable channels because not a big enough market.
There's no distribution for this, so
Right.
there are a lot of Asian Americans. This actually Crunchyroll is available in all markets outside of Korea, Japan. And so it's the group of people that like this content all over the world.
Got it.
And the internet becomes the best place to serve this audience because they're all over the place, right?
Right.
It's
Well, the
not-
expats everywhere.
Expats everywhere.
Yeah, my wife's Korean, and I know all about Korean dramas.
Yeah.
I have a joke in there I'm not going to make. Okay, so Roku, very simple.
Easy to use.
Easy to use.
There's also a
No hard drive,
there's an-
but you can get the major services.
Right. There's an iOS app. It's an unofficial app, and it still needs some time to
bake.
get fully baked.
Now,
yeah.
Boxee is a startup out of New York, funded by Fred Wilson, I believe. They came out with this odd-looking box that's sort of cut in a weird way.
It's very quirky looking.
Very
yeah.
quirky looking, but people seem to be addicted to it. It's got a lot of social in it. I know that I have one, and we're now Boxee. You can get the software, just run it on a Mac, right?
You can actually.
And that's the way
how
I
they-
had it set up originally.
That's how they started out. Actually, they started out
Right.
making that open source.
Yep.
Ported it over to Linux and
Now,
Windows.
what I liked about this was you could load any movie type. Like
Yes.
the VLC player,
Yes,
if you're like an open
yes.
source junkie who has, like ripping DVDs or something, you can load anything.
Yeah,
And
Boxee
that's-
was built off of the XBMC platform, which was
What was that?
designed to
XP?
XBMC is the Xbox Media Center. Which was a old hack for the original Xbox to get all your media
Got
on there.
it.
So yeah, but yeah, what you were saying is that it can support and play back 1080p MKV files that are, gigs and gigs
Got it.
large, as well as
And
a
so,
plethora of other
who
codecs.
is this designed at? What user base is this for?
This is kind of the nerdy type, honestly.
Yeah.
This is
Geek chic?
one of my favorite.
Yeah. And why?
Just because you can access all of your content locally, and it will play literally everything. It's not like
So now,
an
if
Apple
it's
TV.
capturing stuff, is it going across your network and you have to map a drive to it? Does it have like
Yes,
some software I
yes.
install on my desktop?
There is some setup. Essentially, what it's going to do is it's going to go across the network and
Got it.
pull from whatever anyone is sharing. You have
Got
to
it.
specify that on.
So if we
each
did this here at
computer
Mahalo and you
everything.
clicked on music, if there were people sharing their music hard drives, if we browse sources, we might find people.
Right. I haven't
here.
added any sources yet.
Wow, but look at all
here's-
that. What are we
Here's all
looking at?
this, and so long as we have,
What is this
credentials
Wirecast
to,
and this kind of stuff? Is that people actually broadcasting Wirecast here in the building? I
This
guess?
is just all stuff that's shared on the
Wow.
This Weekend
So
network.
yeah, and there's the TriCaster actually.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, so this is the geek choice for if you've got a bunch of media and you don't want to be in the Apple, sort of like the anti-Apple TV.
Yeah, basically.
And they have apps. What apps are they running?
They have a ton of apps. Really, really cool. New for this unit is the actual Boxee browser.
Yeah.
So again, a web browser just like Google TV, which is
Now
kinda
Revision
unique.
3 has an app. Let's take a look at that.
They do.
Now the Revision 3 app, they had to write an app for Boxee. So now you have to write an app for. You have to write a new website. You got to write an app for Boxee. You got to write an app for Roku.
This is correct. Yes.
Yeah, there's a lot of fragmentation in this market.
This is never going to take off if it's this hard. I mean, is the web going to win? Is that just basically how it's going to work? I mean, that's how you're betting, Ashwin?
Well, I think the
Web wins?
TV optimized web pages is definitely, I think, the most smart way to build a business in this area.
Yeah.
And so I don't think there's one iPod or one iTunes of sort of app store of this market that gets you everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So that means you have to really be smart about where you spend your time. How do you build as a business?
yeah.
Which platforms do I want to build to?
And this is basically the argument people are having now about just the web experience in general. Should I build an Android app and an iOS app, or should I just build an HTML5 website and call it a day?
Right.
Is the advice going to be make an app on each of these that just points to your HTML experience?
I think that makes a lot of sense. I mean, if I had to sort of prioritize, I would say look at the market share of all the devices out there. Make sure you just sort of be smart about like publishing to the ones with the highest volume opportunity
Right.
for your content.
Right.
It's just obviously Samsung,
Sure.
Vizio. These are big unit volume OEMs, and then just keep going down the list. And once you get to the point where you just can't do any more, then go with the browser.
Right,
And
but
just
you
let
could
everyone
build an
else know.
app on these things that just frames, which some people are starting to do in iOS. It just frames your HTML experience.
Right.
And this is the craziness for me of the app platforms is we have this beautiful app called the Internet in HTML5. Why are we redoing? I understand for video games perhaps, but
So HTML5 on the TV isn't available yet. I mean, there aren't, and I think outside of Google TV and probably
And Boxee.
Boxee, none of these other devices have browsers that you can build. And even if they did, it doesn't mean that they're all using the same implementation of HTML5 and CSS3 and things like that. So I think next year, hopefully, we'll see some standardization where you could say,
what a mess.
I know my web page will look right across all of these devices.
So everybody's basically just fighting it out. This is like the early days of the web, where IE
mobile.
and Firefox or mobile early days,
which
just nobody can seem to get it straight. Okay, let's go onto the TVs here. Side by side, we have the Samsung Smart TV, $1,800. It's cheaper now, 46-inch. And then we have the Vizio, 22-inch for $400. Both 1080p. And when you turn them on, you get a menu.
Yes.
So if you're some
less.
kooky guy like you, Steve, and you don't want to have a cable or DirecTV box, you just turn this on, put in your Wi-Fi credentials, and you're done. Now, Ashwin, you gave me a statistic at one point. The original internet-enabled TVs all used Ethernet, correct?
That's right.
And what percentage of people would actually enable them?
Would
run an Ethernet cable?
Definitely less than 10. Probably
less than 10% would
even
bother.
though you paid extra to have an internet-capable TV, the fact is that most people don't have an Ethernet cable in their living room.
Right.
It's in their office or their den or the bedroom.
They don't want to rip the wall out.
Yeah,
exactly.
Or run cables on the floor.
Or under the roof.
Or under the roof or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So now they have Wi-Fi enabled.
Right.
And Wi-Fi is good enough for streaming?
It gets better and better every year. I mean, .11n, I think the bit rates are getting really strong, and people
But still a little bit, it's obviously preferable to have the Ethernet.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to get the highest quality and fewer hiccups. But .11n, as long as you're within, let's say, you're in the same room as your access point, you'll be fine.
So what percentage of people will put in their Wi-Fi credentials?
This is something that some manufacturers do really well and some don't. Like, for example, Vizio does a good job of the first time you use the TV, you are asked to put in your Wi-Fi username and password. Once you've done that, you're done. You never have to do it again.
So here we have sidebar channels, popular, favorites, queue, search, and this looks like I'm turning on television. There's Crunchyroll again, Revision 3, and Vimeo. TV Guide, TMZ. Now, did you build this TMZ app, or is that just pointing to their website? Let's take a look.
Yeah, this is actually a part of the platform that we built for Vizio.
Right. So your platform publishing to here on Vizio and also to the web on Google TV. Now, is this two different things on Google TV versus Vizio?
TMZ has to do one thing. They have to create an app with Flingo, and we make sure that it gets to all these devices.
Got it. Yeah. So you're trying to build the glue between these things and deal with that for folks.
Right.
And here I'm just, we're just going through all the different videos that you would normally see on the website.
Right.
Of course.
But you don't have to go to the website.
That's correct.
Which is going to be brilliant. I mean, people will just hit this and hit play and watch 20 videos for an hour. This would be a huge success. Do you have any preliminary ideas about what the engagement is on an app like this versus the web?
Yeah,
what is
time spent is significantly higher.
Define significantly. Twice, three times?
I think
50% more?
Yeah, I think we're seeing definitely engagement 15 minutes at one session.
15 minutes in one session, right?
Yeah,
so that's double a YouTube session.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Okay, so let's stand up and look at this one here, the Smart Hub. You can stand up. I think you're on a wireless.
Okay.
Let's all stand up. We're trying to walk around the studio here. We wanted to try doing a freestanding thing. So here we have the Smart Hub, which is a gorgeous TV. It's so thin and light. I mean, you can see I'm just moving this thing with my hand. By the way, we bought all this stuff, so none of this is free from the people. I'm not saying I like any of this or don't like it based upon people giving us free swag. We just cash out of pocket, bought everything, so we could have an independent, critical look at each of these things. And I can say this stuff sucks or doesn't without worrying about pissing anybody off. So I turned this on. Samsung, less ugly than it was, but the original version was really ugly. And this looks really messy, but for some reason I'm super compelled to it. What do you think of the Smart Hub?
This, as far as volume, Samsung is it's a huge player in the market. Their
volume of sales.
Of volume of TVs. It's a worldwide company, so if you're looking for volume anywhere in any market, Samsung's a good place to publish an app.
Yeah.
This, among all the major manufacturers, is probably the most successful app store.
It's amazing. And so here you have this beautiful iPad app.
Actually, iOS app. It's another one of those that is,
right. So you're doubling up. So it's your iPhone
here.
app.
So
we're
it's
just
an
magnifying
iPhone
it up.
one.
So
Yep,
it's the same
true.
difference. It doesn't really matter. And it's the same sort of idea. That I'm scrolling through here, and you can see as I'm going from Netflix and back. And I like this. It gives you a little It's hard to see. I think you can see it
Animation's kinda
perfectly
cool.
now.
Yeah.
It gives you a little thing there. Now, what I liked was, I'm a news junkie, and I see there's BBC News down there, so I can scroll down to BBC News, and then I just click. Maybe I hit nav. No, maybe I double click. There we go.
you go.
So now, if I just plug this in or put Wi-Fi on it, all of a sudden I can watch BBC News, and I don't have to have cable. I mean, this is a revolution.
Yep.
Now, can the internet handle? I mean, look how beautiful it looks. It looks a standard BBC News. Can the internet handle everybody in the world having one of these? I remember Mark Cuban writing about, hey, if everybody starts HD streaming, it's not going to work. Is this going to cause a problem on the internet in terms of traffic?
I think smart people, and they're not dumb people, smart people every few years predict the end of the internet and
Right.
know that it's going to burst at the seams.
Right.
It never happens. I mean, it's the beauty of the internet.
Yeah.
It's packet switch and capacity just sort of flows wherever it's needed, and or traffic flows wherever there's capacity. And I think, I ran BitTorrent for 4 years, and people said that we were going to kill the network, and obviously the network gets...
And you did. No, you didn't.
tubes were
So
clogged.
Maybe
here
your
we are.
office, but definitely not the internet.
And obviously, photos, Steven, videos being pulled from your computer or being pulled from a memory stick? How are they getting on?
Both, actually. You got
Yeah.
a couple USB ports on the back, as well as a sort of very proprietary interface and way to go about getting your pictures and music and stuff off of your PC.
Now, they also have apps. So here's the app for ESPN. What language is this written in? And is this something that you guys support at Flingo?
So we just recently announced a partnership with Samsung, and all of the apps that you saw on the Vizio and that we demoed on the Google TV, we're going to publish to Smart Hub as well. So stay tuned. In a couple weeks, you'll see a lot of apps.
Now, how
from
is
Flingo.
this stuff written? Is this written in C++, Objective-C? What is this?
Well,
We're
Samsung
looking
did a
at-
few interesting things. They put a browser. It's called the Maple browser. It's not the same browser that you see on Google TV, the Chrome browser. It's another browser. You can build an HTML JavaScript. They've also put Flash on these TVs, so you can actually. They announced a partnership with Adobe to put Flash 10
Great.
in the TV for the first time, and so Flash developers.
So that means
can
we're going to
build
see some 3D games coming to the TV.
games, lots of interesting applications in Flash that are going to be here.
And I seem to have lost a signal here. Oh, here's
No, you're
home. And I see. Oh wow! Look, you can use on there. You can either pick you want to use the game control or the TV remote. They've actually built a game control into here.
They do have a couple of games over in the Samsung apps store. I haven't
So
put
I would
any
pick-
on this unit specifically, but
So I can go buy Tetris, or are these free?
I believe they're paid apps.
Huh.
You can go ahead
Okay.
and click on that there.
So I click on the apps, and now I'm going to the App Store. So Samsung actually
Samsung
got
App
this after.
Store.
Does that mean I have to put in my credit card number here? in
Yeah,
order to-
Samsung is ahead of the curve here. They actually do want to act as the billing engine.
Wow.
For these apps, so you can actually put your credit card in.
There you go.
And look,
It'll
there you go.
store it for you.
$4.99 for Tetris HD, $5 for Uno. Now, how hard is it for me to take my Uno app or my Tetris app from the iOS store and then publish it here?
Totally different. Objective-C is not what you're writing to publish to Samsung.
Got it.
That's definitely kind of an iOS world, or iOS platform.
So now we've got yet another platform to support. Unbelievable.
Yeah, so Apple is its own thing, right?
Right.
Everyone else, I think, is converging on some stuff.
Which
And
would be HTML.
ultimately, that's the bet I would be making is HTML5 on TV, and TV optimized for user experience.
Yeah. But already I could see people, look at that, you can get a yoga guide. So this is something I need to get Mahalo on and this weekend on is charging for our content here.
Absolutely.
Like we have, to Push-Up Master for 99 cents. But how many of these are people going to sell, do we think?
Well, clearly, Netflix is the most popular app on these platforms
Yeah.
right now. I think the stat is that 60% of the connected TV buyers are using Netflix.
Sure.
So it drops off for other applications, YouTube, et cetera.
Yeah.
But the volume gets better and better, as you talked about earlier. And if I was picking one to start with, Samsung, these kinds of devices have a lot of volume.
Yeah.
So you could get a lot of bang for the buck.
Okay, so let's all have a seat back here, and we'll go through what's on the future. We're 58 minutes in. Wow, this has been an incredibly dense episode in terms of information. I feel like overwhelmed.
School?
Yeah, it's just so much going on. Google, of course, rumored to be interested in buying both Hulu and Netflix. I'm going to guess they're going to get one of those too. I don't think they're going to get Netflix. Roku 2 model coming out with a new remote and Bluetooth this summer.
Warmly
Apple
welcomed.
TV. Fox is poised to launch ultraviolet cloud service to make digital versions of films available for streaming on multiple devices. Fox going direct to the customer. So who loses in all of this, do we think? Who's the loser?
It's unclear. This ultraviolet announcement is a sign that, like, sort of the home video, traditionally the physical media business, is trying to get streaming smart,
right?
So that you can have a streaming version of this everywhere. We're working on something that will address the opportunity for cable networks, which is currently everyone says will be the most at risk, the business of putting cable content on cable net on the channel guide.
Yeah, because you have HBO now saying, "Hey, get HBO to go on your iPad."
Yeah,
and they don't charge for that yet. It's only for people who have subscriptions through their Time Warner or DirecTV.
Right.
But there's no reason they couldn't charge $5 a month for HBO.
And they could.
And go direct to consumer.
We actually think that it's going to take a long time for people to just sort of walk away from cable. There are
some people who aren't even walking up to cable.
That's true, and I think that's happening around the edges, right?
Yeah.
Clearly, the geek market is moving to these cool devices. Mainstream America is still, according to Nielsen, spending 5 hours a day with cable, whether it's sports or news or weather.
But you can get
like
HD over-the-air antennas now, and it looks better than cable.
Yeah, but the
HD.
content is still.
But you're going to get your local news. You're going to get your ABC, NBC, Fox, right? ABC.
Sure, you're not going to get CNN. You're not going to get Fox News. You're not
right,
gonna,
but
which
CNN
is,
is now streaming.
Not the entire feed. So the cable networks are very much tied to cable distribution
because of the
money.
They get paid by subscription.
Right, and people, truthfully, in the middle of America, aren't running away from this. They're spending more and more time every year, and the business gets bigger and bigger every year.
Interesting.
So what we're trying to do with smart TVs in the latest version of our product is actually build apps that synchronize with the linear TV experience, because that's clearly what people are using their TVs for.
So what does that mean in English?
That means I'm watching American Idol, and I get it through Comcast or DirecTV or whatever.
Right.
And instead of voting with my cell phone, I want to vote with my remote control. So that means the application is built on the content rather than taking away from the content.
Now, are people going to start building iPad-like devices to sell with the TV? Like, it seems to me like it's great that Samsung lets you do this on the iPad.
Yeah.
But, then whoever owns the iPad in the house is not, and they brought their iPad with them on vacation or to work, now there's no remote control. Has anybody released a light pad, like the Logitech that we have here, with their television set yet?
It's a good idea. You mean like a universal remote?
Yeah, like why wouldn't Samsung have a little flat panel iPad-like device that they sold with the television or as an option? It would seem to me that people would pay $200 for that, $100 for that. It'd be all profit margin.
What, you mean just getting rid of this remote and replacing it with a touchscreen?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's happening at the high end. I think Samsung actually did release a touchscreen. Yeah. And there'll be apps in the App Store that basically turn this into a piece of software. That's definitely happening.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I have to further touch base on that. I was using an iPad for strictly demonstration purposes. All of them, most of these sets have apps for Android and the Android market, as well as, obviously for your iPhone or a couple other smartphones out there.
And the way you get it to connect is how? It does some pairing or something?
It's actually really simple with all of them. You just hop on the same Wi-Fi network and as the device, and you open up the app, and the app finds the device, and you click on it. And I actually paired the iPad with the Google TV while we were talking about it, and it asked us for a little 4-digit code that I had to put in just to verify.
Just to make sure that somebody out in the street corner is not changing your channel. But if your Wi-Fi network is locked, you need to have the Wi-Fi password, so there's some security there.
Right. So you just put in the code in some cases, you hit go, and then you have a remote.
Now, what about the sort of streaming from my HDR and the concept of HDRs in general? I've had my TiVo, DirecTV, digital recorder. Are those still going to exist? If everything's available streaming, why do I need to have a TiVo-like device? Is that going to go away?
Well, as long as there's great content on, 24/7 linear cable, people are going to want to keep a copy of it for themselves for later viewing, whether it's sports or some other sitcom that's in your normal primetime window. And of course, Netflix wants to have that content in its streaming service. Hulu wants it as well. But the economics of having that content get more challenging.
Netflix can't get everything now.
That's right. They can't get it. It's getting more expensive for them to acquire content, and that's because the cable companies want to have it on their channel guide and not in Netflix.
So now we have an arms race between Netflix and Time Warner Cable or DirecTV.
Right.
And as part of that arms race, Netflix now is had their announcement about raising prices and dissuading people from having DVDs, so they can pump that money into paying the content providers to get stuff streamed.
Yeah, it had to happen. And if we all want Netflix to have more content, right? As Netflix subscribers, we want it to have more and better and more recent, but that's not going to come without extra cost.
Do we see a tiered moment where there's Netflix and Netflix Pro, where there's an $8 or $9 Netflix, and then there's a $25 Netflix that has more? Like, I feel like Netflix streaming is too cheap.
Yeah.
At $10 a month, I feel like it's too cheap.
I mean, I don't know what Netflix's plans are, but it seems to be that Netflix enjoys simplicity. Like they push simplicity, and they
very Apple-like.
Yeah, I think their history is one size fits all, sort of like a buffet. Rather than saying here's different.
Well, they did
tiers.
have, but counter to that, they did have a 3-tier, 5-tier, and 7-tier for discs.
Right.
And actually, I think they publicized 1, 2, and 5 or something, 1, 3, and 5. But they actually had a secret one for 9.
Yeah.
And I was using the 9 for a while, and that was insane, but fun.
Yeah, I think.
They didn't charge that much more for it. I think it was, instead of 20, it was 40.
I think it creates some complexity for their business to have not only for the consumer, but also for how they pay royalties to the studios, like how things get sliced and diced.
And what about first-run movies? There's been the talk of, I can get a Green Lantern or Captain America while it's in theaters, or a month after it's in theaters, I can pay $25 a month. Is that going to be an actual trend that people will do that?
I hope so. I mean, I think that's we all want that. Particularly those people who've sort of bought into, I'm streaming my content to my TV directly.
Yeah. Right.
We want to see more, stuff, because the only alternative is to go steal it.
Right.
And that's not what we. Not what the industry wants, and so at a certain point, we just have to find a market-clearing price for.
I think if you want to have first-run content, you should pay double what you'd have to pay in the theater. So if it's $10 a ticket, and it would normally be 2 people, it'd be 20. So make it 40 to have it in the first week, 40 in the first 2 weeks, 30 in the next 2 weeks, and then 20 in the month after, and then it goes to the streaming services. Something like that. Expensive like that. And then people would still go to the studios. Well, this has been fascinating. Thank you to the producers who put a whole bunch of work into this, Carolyn, everybody. Thanks to the studio guys who, were the first time, and I think it went really well, that we actually were walking around something and mobilized around the studio and doing it. It's a pretty good job on that. And thanks to our great sponsors, GoToMeeting and Carbonite, 2 great services that I use all the time. If you have an idea for another themed show like this where we all sort of catch up and get up to speed on a topic, suggest it, and you can do that at tips@thisweekend.com. I don't think that email exists yet, but we'll make sure it's up by the time you just heard it. Thank you so much for being on the program. People can find out more at Flingo where?
Flingo.tv.
Got it.
And check out our open source project too, flingo.org.
Flingo.org.
Yeah, we've got a great new project
awesome.
running.
And they can follow you, Ashwin, at Ashwin Navin, Navin, on Twitter. And you're based here in LA, or where are you based?
San Francisco.
In San Francisco. How many people at the company?
15.
15.
Nice.
Wow.
Yeah.
And if there's a great developer out there who wanted to work on a really exciting project, I'm assuming they can email Ashwin at flingo.tv.
Jobs@flingo.tv.
But if they wanted to talk directly to the CEO founder.
Yeah, something like that.
I'm talking about like cream of the crop person, right? Yes.
Yeah, cream of the crop, sure.
Yeah. Or out of school. There he is.
Yeah.
Or she is. There's your developer. Absolutely. We're going to get to them. Steven, thank you for putting all this together and all this hard work setting it up. I know a lot went into it. Thank you, GoToMeeting, again, and free Aaron. Let's not put hackers in jail for stealing academic papers. I mean, he shouldn't have stole the stuff. Stole it. I mean, if the guy went to the library and he photocopied every book, would you put him in jail for 35 years? I mean, just drop the charges. Let him pay a fine and give him some probation. Let's move on. He learned his lesson, etc. This is not hire him to work for the goddamn CIA or something, or FBI, or counterterrorism or something like that. This is a brilliant guy. I've met him before. He's a really nice kid. Why are we putting hackers with a ton of knowledge in jail when we've got China attacking us? Put this guy on the defense. This guy should be on our offensive team, not in a prison. That's just one man's opinion. We'll see you next time on This Week in Startups.
Money is the root of all evil. What? Funny how it feeds my spend the money and defeat you. It's been a minute, so you thought you were safe. You trapped behind these bars like you locked in a cage. Stuck behind bars, making minimum wage. Your bar's tender. Here's a tip, get you a raise. Ain't nobody gonna offer a profit to motherfuckers who ain't rocking it, topping the hip hop charts and then stopping it. Quick to drop a set opposite of the hottest shit, copping it. It's the profit kid. Always quick to accomplish. I'm positive. Getting green like a roster with a lot of dread. Money's piling up like the Washington Monument. The way I'm steering this track, it'll make you car sick. The only time you're gonna see green is when you barfing. I'm the Mothman, consider this the prophecy. I'm in it to win it, that's why I'm making a profit, see. And I won't spend it till my rich is stupendous. And I'm selling sicker than tech is the method, is to keep it independent. Money is the root of all evil. But funny how it feeds my people. We ain't gonna live like equals until we get the money, spend the money and defeat you. Yeah, money is the root of all evil. What? Funny how it feeds my people. Yeah, we ain't gonna live like equals until we get the money, spend the money and defeat you.